Thank you, Mr. Jain. So Jain said that we need to move from past to future. And on a LinkedIn, I just read one message yesterday that CFO is Chief Future Officer. And to some extent, I think I agree, and I feel that the CFO, rather than a Chief Future Officer, I think CFOs are Chief Flexible Officer, because if anything comes new, and there was a discussion in our organization that who should take care of CSR, and there was no answer, and then people nevertheless actually look at the finance people, right, the CFO. Now our session is from data to decisions, so whenever there are insights, there are decisions which nobody else can take, then again it will come to the CFO. So I think the new terminology may be the Chief Flexible Officer. Thank you, NetNext. I think on behalf of all panelists, we will, so we have 150 years, more than 150 years of cumulative experience on the stage. We have all veterans, and I think let's make the best use of next 50 minutes, because we have 3 people from manufacturing background and manufacturing entities, and they have a retail as well. We have one representative from packaging solutions, we have one representative from logistics, and we have one representative who is providing a platform on our food chains, etc. So I think we have a diversified speakers and panelists. I think let's make the best use of it. We will have initial discussion with everyone, and we will keep question and answers at the end, so that the flow will not get disturbed, and we have reserved some time at the end. So I'm your moderator. I'm Kishore. I am Harvard Business School alum, and I'm currently working with DBS India. I am responsible for South Asian and Middle East markets. Neetu Kashiramba, she is, means we all travel and we use luggage, so she is representing VIP Industries. Then the next one is Tanushri. Tanushri is CXO and independent director of Lakshmi Organics, and they deal in specialty chemicals. Yashpal is director finance and IT. He is providing packaging solutions. He is representing from MNC. So we have again a mix of MNCs, local service sector, the platform provider. So we have a diversified panelist as well. We have Piyush. Piyush is from Rebel Foods. They are providing online platform and services. The next one is Siddharth. Siddharth is heading finance, and he is, again, their products are very much there in our homes. He is from Crompton Greaves Consumer Electricals. We have Siddharth, and we have Deepal. Deepal Shah is Group CFO of All Cargo Logistics, and they provide end-to-end logistics solutions. So again, warm welcome to all panelists. Yeah. So what I will do is I will just kickstart, because we have huge data everywhere, and sometimes we use data, sometimes we may not be making the best use of it. So again, I will just start with a little bit from our industry. So I represent DBS. We are mining company, a diamond mining company since last 135 years, and we have created diamond as a category. So in diamond, there are various processes and data is everywhere. Now the problem statement was, say end customer like you, we buy diamonds, right? We buy natural diamonds, and we pay for the natural diamonds. However, nowadays there are lab-grown diamonds which are also available. So when you pay for the natural diamonds, you are not sure whether you are getting natural diamond or you are getting lab-grown diamond. I think that's a problem statement. Now, when we looked at this problem, and there are, we thought that how should we solve this? Then finally we have created a blockchain. We have used the existing data in entire diamond pipeline and an entire ecosystem, wherein we have used the blockchain technology, and the physical journey of a diamond is captured in a digital way. So that when we sell diamonds, we are a mining company, the data is captured. The similar access is given to the all B2B stakeholders in the pipeline. So our immediate customers, we call them as the site holders, they cut and polish diamonds. So the diamond, when will go there, it's captured there, then it will go to the manufacturers who will put along with a metal like gold, they will manufacture into ornament and it will go to the retailer. So entire data is captured and we have provided that sort of a audit trail or evidence to the end customer, and end customer is really happy because now he knows that this diamond came from which mine, what is this origin, and this is a natural diamond. Very, very recently, last year, when there was a war between Ukraine and Russia, particularly from the US customers, there was a requirement that they will not buy diamonds which are originated from Russia because they are not willing to fund the war. And this really helped because we were able to provide the origin of a diamond, and our origin, we do not have any mines in Russia, so that really helped to get those customer confidence and assurance. And lastly, someone talked about ESG. We do a lot to our communities, and we have various mines in Africa. So all the ESG work, what we do, and how the diamond which you are going to buy is helping communities is also provided along with this. So I think starting with this, I think data has massive usage. Earlier, for so many decades, it has not used. We had a project tracer, and we are using since last 3 years. We have more than 1,000 diamonds on this platform. So I think with that, I will kickstart this conversation, and I will start with Piyush, because when we take certain decisions that how we would like to use this data, or how we would like to implement some systems to get the insights from initial stage till implementation, what are their steps? Maybe Piyush, you can kickstart with that.
Yeah, thank you, Kishore, and good morning, warm welcome, thank you so much. So all of us, as part of our day jobs, right, we do realize that businesses grow and businesses diversify. You reach a stage whereby you realize that the existing systems are not equipped enough to deliver the vision which is laid out, right? And that's where you start thinking that there is a need for a new architecture on the tech side that needs to be done. So I think always this roadmap in my mind, right, with various industries that I work for, you reach a stage whereby you feel that that business has a right vision, but growth is getting stalled because of not having the right systems. So that's where this need arises, that we need to relook at our data or a tech architecture, and there is a need for overhaul. So this, to my mind, is the first step, an initial step. Once this is done, then we need to actually design the roadmap of the tech in line with the business roadmap. So this, to my mind, is the second step. And here, business, finance, tech, all these three departments will play a very, very important role. Once this second step is clear, right, there is an organization key stakeholder alignment that now we need to rehaul the whole data architecture or a tech architecture. After having completed these two stages of evaluation, then the third step is important as to build versus buy. Because the tech resources are one of the most precious resources in the organization. And there are modules which are available in market for which one should not build. However, each of the businesses are different. So there are some part of the business that you need to build in-house. And hence, once you have created the roadmap, you decide which part of this needs to be built and what needs to be bought. Typically, what reference is kept in mind is that anything that is around a customer journey or unique to the business should be built in-house. Anything that is related to a ERP or a self-sufficient modules which are available in the market, you should buy. And we should be clear on the integration between the internal systems and the external system that will buy for it. After having done these three steps, then comes the most important step, which is that at organization level, at a C-suite level, we are clear that we need to make this change. Then comes the change management process, because human beings by default are very, very reluctant, right? So how do you make sure that the benefits of the change in the tech architecture is laid out clearly to the stakeholders, and you also make sure that it's socialized well so that people look forward to this change rather than it creating a friction. After having gone through this fourth stage, the fifth step is the implementation. This is again very, very critical, because if during the stage of implementation the planning is not done well, it sort of starts to impact business negatively in the short term. And that's where the friction creates in the mind that this is not the right for the business, because recency says that, if the implementation is not smooth, it's not a great long-term strategy. So make sure that we plan well, and then once that is done, it's implemented well, it's solved, and then you make sure that, the benefits are sort of communicated well, and then it's business as usual. So to summarize 5 steps, first is need for the data architecture revamp. Second is about the building the design. Third is about build versus buy. Fourth is about the change management. And fifth is about a smooth implementation.
Thank you. Thanks, Piyush. Now what I will do it is, since we have all these panelists from different industries, possibly I will ask the same question to more than one panelist, and we will try and get the insights from different panelists for the same question, so that we will get the different views. So maybe I will kickstart with Deepal. So Deepal, what challenges do you see do you encountered as a CFO while implementing data-driven decision making? And if you can elaborate that, how you have overcome them.
So let me give you a concept, which I follow generally is, and how important data is. So anything which is not, coming from data is an opinion. So that culturally, in the organization one needs to drive. That anything not backed by data is an opinion. So I'm very clear that data, if there is something that somebody is coming up with an analysis, it has to be backed by data. So data is very important. And decisions. So I'm just alluding a little bit to the previous conversation where Mr. Jain very nicely explained, and somebody from the audience asked, the C-suite lines, the borders are thinning very fast. So there was a whole question around why are you a CFO and why can't you even be a CEO or a COO or whatever that may be. So as we see, those lines are thinning very fast, but each one has its own role to play. And way back, I'll take a minute more to just give you a little bit of background. Way back, how the transition has happened for finance is from bookkeeping to MIS way back. So MIS was more internal, looking at, how management information systems, how your books are made up, what it really means, to analyticals of your business. Now transiting to getting information from outside in, getting information from other industries, competition information, environment information, to understand how it will impact your business, to further going down to predictive analysis, like it was alluded to. So most important in data is the most difficult part. So the transition is that earlier days we didn't have data. Now the issue sometimes is you have too much data. So that's a separate discussion altogether. So we talk about big data analytics, and from a scarcity to an abundance or an overflowing data is the situation. So when the overflowing data comes into play, it's important for us to decipher what is the right data and make sure that your decision, because your decisions are driven by the data that you see. So if your data is not fully correct, your decisions obviously will kind of go wrong. So it's very important that each organization, has one, most important is correct data. So what we have seen, what our experience has been is that, it's garbage in, garbage out. And what we have seen is the quality of data when you're using in across, and for an organization like us, we are present in like 300 locations globally. So the amount of data that comes to us, most important thing is to make sure that the quality of data is very important. Yeah. So the quality of data, the source of data, and the capability to analyze it, these are the most important and most challenging things. Decision on that, ideally, which seems to be more tough, becomes much easier if the quality of all these three factors, are taken care very easily. So that's how I would approach the decision making, and it's difficult to get the three sources, the sources and the quality of data right. That is more, and then the right type of data also as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Dipal. I think we should have data-driven decision making. Otherwise, it's an opinion. I think very nicely said. So maybe we will go with Neetu, her anger actually to the same question.
Hi, good morning everybody. Deepal already alluded on what is the use of data. What I would say that data is definitely important. Now, how do you make use of data to decide, to make decision is what is very important, because data, just keeping data and accumulating it is of no use unless it is used for deciding or making decisions. Now, in the past we used to make, so people used to make decisions, right? However, the things are changing now and we want technology to decide. Now that's a big change. I am an organization which is a 50-year-old organization. So to make that change, it's not easy and it requires a lot of efforts. But I would say that how do you overcome that? So partnering with the relevant people and then showing them how it will make a difference to their life, I think that is important. And many a times there is some discomfort with the people because they think that their job will go away. So a very, something which is traditionally thought that if I keep the data in my laptop, my job is secure and therefore my importance will be felt. I think we need to make that change from that thought process that no, you're not important because the data is with you. I think it has to be shared, and that's a big change which I believe for the decision making is very important.
Yeah, thanks Nitu. I think she rightly said, because those entities which are very old, it's very tough, I think, to do the change management. But then we use data everywhere, right? I just came on through a Google map. We use Google almost everywhere. So we use data extensively, but yeah, so there are different organizations, startup versus older organizations, and there is a change management. So I will go with Yashpal, his views on the same question.
Hello. Yeah, so basically, as we have just heard, so one is from the scarcity of data to a lot of data. So first of all, we need to really solve that, what is the relevant data and the quality of data. So that is something which is very, very crucial to make this process efficient and not make it very bureaucratic for the people who really don't buy it. So that is one. And second is, as Mr. Jain said, it's not about the data, it's about the insight. Okay, and maybe pardon me, but finance folks are very good in beating the data, for a long time. But whether we are able to come out with a story which is relevant for the business, for the present, as well as for the future, that is something which is very, very crucial. And then various sets of data, how do you consolidate that? There should be one version of truth which everyone can relate to. And maybe the last is, how do we balance between the analysis and the timeline? Sometimes the problem becomes that, a lot of analysis causes paralysis, and, you lose the relevance of, the time. So that is something which is very, very crucial in my view. Finance can really, play a lead role to change the culture by, bringing more efficiency around all these aspects.
Thanks, Yashpal. I think very nicely said. So now what we'll do it is, Tanushri has worked in different industries. She has worked in a startup, banking, manufacturing, and various industries. So maybe Tanushri, if you can elaborate that, how data is used in different industry, so that I think we will get that understanding.
Thanks, Kishore. It's on, okay. So I think we talk about data, but we forget that, data is ultimately used by people, and their orientation and their mindset and openness to how data and analytics can play a role is also what defines the industry's comfort or an organization's comfort with data and analytics. I started my career as a banker, and I can safely tell you, and then I moved to manufacturing, then I went to a startup, and I'm back to manufacturing. in this entire journey, I can safely tell you that banks, because their work is just data driven, right? Banks won't be able to function without the predictive modeling or the data analysis about their customers or even their different BUs, right? They actually have the most open mindset within people because forever they've been using data. So, you know, when Piyush was talking about the roadmap that needs to be built, banks have actually worked on that. So today, whether they have an in-house technology or an outside technology, they're very set. I mean, 20 years ago, I knew that banks, I mean, I was a part of the BCP for banks where they were already doing continuity plans and drills if data was, or data systems were down, right? I think from that perspective, security and quality of data is also the most superior at banks because their entire business depends on that. Startups come a close second because I think what happens is startups are recent organizations, that's how, and young organizations, they're made of younger people. They're actually more open to analytics adoption. When they start their journey, data is and their roadmap to using analytics as a part of their journey. I think, having said that, the data quality and security is something that startups also can improve on because I think one key element in the race to grow or the race to deploy, startups miss out on is security and some of the processes around processes around the analytics and data. I think as far as manufacturing is concerned, the vastest amount of data, both legacy data and recent data, rests with manufacturing. Having said that, they're also the most, as Neetu also just mentioned, they're probably the most reluctant to adopt data for assorted reasons, and one being that, you know, the senior folks are not as tech savvy. And I think that's where consolidation across various BUs and functions can be done more effectively in manufacturing, and that's the aim that at least I have seen in my both manufacturing roles. And I think security for manufacturing, data security and system security is again something that manufacturing needs to invest on.
Thank Tanushree. So data is new oil, and anyway we use differently in different industries. So maybe Tanushree, if you can again answer, since you have a mic, that can you share your experiences of how data-driven insights have led to significant improvements or success in your organization's financial performance?
So Kishore, I'll take an example which is very close to my heart, right? This is actually the perfect example of data structuring, data consolidation. So in one of my previous roles, right, we had a lot of data, we had a lot of insights into what inventory we were carrying. What was not available was the insights into what inventory was being carried at what location to the relevant stakeholders in the same time frame and in the same transparency. As a result, what was happening was we were spending a lot more on logistics than we needed to do. What we did was we took the data, consolidated it across the different BUs to see what they needed to ensure that they saw what they needed to see. So the ERP had data of inventory at plant, then we started getting inventory at warehouses, and we developed a very, very simple tool which every Wednesday would tell every salesperson, every logistics person, and every plant planner on what were the critical items lying at a particular place. What this meant was the inventory or the items for which the inventory was less than 15 days. That then suddenly highlighted to the plant guys what needed to be manufactured. To logistics, it meant if there was something lying at one warehouse that was not needed because everybody had the sales plan for the month, which could be shipped to another location. And the overall management actually saw where we were carrying extra inventory or low inventory, because of which either our planning or logistics costs were not in line. So every Wednesday, this would go out as an SMS and an email alert. And then by Thursday noon, all the logistics and the plant planners were required to then input data saying this is how we would fulfill the gaps that are there in the critical inventory. Week 1, when we started with 126 critical items, and within 3 months, we were down to 26 critical items across the organization. And I think that's the power of consolidating data, using the same data in a manner that it can help everybody. And I think that for me is the key success story that I'd like to speak about.
Yeah, thanks Tanushri. I think we might have remembered that there was a bin card system wherein we used to maintain those inventories, and it was a nightmare, right, vis-a-vis the current online system, which can really help. So maybe I will move on to the Siddharth. Maybe you can narrate your experiences in your Crompton Greaves or maybe earlier organization.
Thank you. Good morning, friends. If looking at the Crompton story, it has been a wonderful journey in terms of using data and the power of data to immediately directly impact business performance. Most of you may be aware, we are currently what we are as a result of demerger somewhere in 2015. And as Neeraj sir was rightly mentioning, that we as an organization also suffered from having multiple versions of truth. We had a situation wherein we had a new SAP being implemented, the mother of all changes, GST, around the corner, and different functions had different versions of data, and decisions were getting grossly skewed. And the first thing that we did as an organization was to create a small center of excellence and worked on basics, fundamentals, like creating a single version of something as basic as a sales report, a collection report, an inventory, because different functions, different business units, different geographical location would look at reports, data, including this channel, excluding this channel, including this NPD, excluding that NPD, and the decision makers would be grossly confused. And we obviously had situations which would be detrimental to not only cash flows, but also to the bottom line directly. At the same time, at times losing potential orders, etc. So it has been a journey wherein we have been able to create a lot of single version of truth, working at an advanced stage of creating a single data center of excellence, whose core job will be to provide data to all stakeholders on a need basis, which is very critical. Again, the timeliness is very critical. If a decision maker needs the data now, he needs the data now, not after 5 hours, not after 2 days, right? Because by that time, the relevancy of the data is gone. What we were also able to do, something, a project that is very close to my heart, was we are also in a business which is a B2B business, which is a lead-based business, right, wherein a lot of infrastructure projects keeps going around the country. A lot of front-end sales team interacts with the different projects, and there is a funnel of orders. These orders mature over a period of time. It's not like an FMCG business wherein a salesman goes to a retail outlet, takes an order, secondary sales happen, primary sales happen, nothing like that. So sometimes right from the first visit to the last, the invoicing happening, it takes up to 6 months, because these are infrastructure projects. So what we were losing out was in terms of a central consolidation of the funnel of orders, funnel of potential leads, and also a lot of important communication with the customer getting diluted or lost as people rotated across functions or rotated as a churn of people moving outside the organization. So what we implemented was a CRM tool which would consolidate all such leads, data, etc. in a single place, will become a repository of everything for a sustainable future. At the same time, make it independent of people. No matter people move left, right, and center, the data remains, the relationship with the customer is safeguarded, the cost, the pricing, all engagements with the customer remains in a single place. Also integrating it with the SAP system to ensure that the revenue and cost leakages do not happen in terms of wrong invoicing to the customer or wrong purchase or procurements at cost which are way different than the negotiated cost, because either way it's going to be lost to the organization. So the way this entire transformation has happened in terms of the lead management, the CRM tool, it has transformed the entire B2B business. Of course, as Neetu said, there was a huge resistance to change. Because, so what we did, what we were able to do, we anticipated this and during the dry runs, etc. And we divided our project into phases, created parallel systems, the legacy system as well as the new systems, so as to ensure that the business continuity remains. We had technical hiccups in the process, as well as the stakeholder buying continues to be there. And that's what I think helped us really.
Thanks, Siddharth. I think very well elaborated that how the technology infrastructure is used for this success. Now I will go to Deepal, because nowadays we get a real-time information of logistics movement, right? So how this has helped in success in your industry?
I think timely information is very critical. So I'll give you a classical example. You know, I'll very close to logistics industry and how it's also benefited a lot of manufacturing and other industries as well. Is way back, inventory costs and reducing them was very important for manufacturing to stay efficient and, you know, obviously bring down product cost and be more competitive. But the entire visibility in terms of the timeline for logistics was always a challenge, because, you know, ships or aircrafts, you know, we didn't have visibility. So with that same thing, we had something which is known as, you know, just in time, which many of the manufacturers were using. But what happened with just in time is that the holding cost moved actually to the supplier, right? I mean, so we all may say, but the holding cost, if you were saying just in time, means it just comes, you know, the product comes in, but the holding cost finally moves to someone else, right? With the available information, the visibility of you know, the timelines to get the product, it's become far more efficient across the supply chain. You know, each participant of the supply chain is able to become more and more efficient. And there is predictiveness in terms of you know, when I will be able to finish producing and when I will be able to deliver. You know, so that has been a best use case, in my opinion, of the timely information available on the entire logistics supply chain industry. And it is getting better. You know, what we are seeing is, you know, I don't know if you guys know, there are a lot of, you know, these digital tags, you know, RFIDs and GPS tags, which are even put on containers or on their parcels, which actually allow you to get absolute real-time information. So, and also know where exactly your product is. So I think information, you know, with this digital age is a great boon in terms of improving efficiency and delivering lower cost to the end consumer. I think so that's a great I think achievement as far as data is concerned for the logistics industry. Thank you.
Thanks, Deepal. Now we will move to Piyush.
So Deepal covered on logistic. Let me cover on the food side, right? I represent Rebel Foods, which is a food tech, and we have 450 plus cloud kitchens, operate 40 brands across 5 countries. Now typical QSR is one brand is equal to one location, right? And how could we manage a 15 brands operating out of one cloud kitchen, whereas traditionally it's one brand, managing 300 SKUs versus a 30 SKUs, right? It's all through the data, right? So what happens is that in our model, we have to solve for how much items to order from the supplier, what is the level of inventory to be stored in warehouse, what is the frequency of movement of goods from warehouse to the kitchen, and how much inventory to be stored in warehouse. Then you add the complication. Out of 300 SKUs, there are 30 SKUs which has a shelf life of 1 day, right? There are 70 SKUs which has a shelf life of 5 days. And then there are other SKUs which has a shelf life of 6 days or 6 months also, some of things like rice and all, right? So ranging from curd, which is same day expiry, to a rice which can go up to 6 months. Now, if you overstock, it leads to wastage. And if you understock, it leads to a bad customer experience. So this is where the last 5 years data of each location and each time zone is very, very critical. And that repository of data, which we then use the insight through data science, helps us to order how much, to store how much, what's the frequency of ordering, and also frequency of preparation. In a particular kitchen, team members are aware how much rice to be pre-cooked today based on the order forecasting for the day, right? The order fluctuation is immense. In Navratri, people don't consume non-veg, right? The orders are 3x on the weekend, but 20x on the 31st December. So I think all these are opportunities, and you can only solve it through storing the right data and then using the right data insights. So this is what I wanted to.
Thanks, Piyush. You use extensive data because of these different varieties. So we'll go to Neetu now.
So I'll just give you an example of a peculiar situation which we faced. So around a year ago, what was happening was 50% of our revenue is actually new ranges. So when we say new ranges, means new products which we launch every year. Now in that case, the forecasting was becoming very difficult and the forecasting accuracy was lower than 30%. So for example, if X product is launched and the marketing department used to predict what will be the revenue. And this used to have, high inventories, then slow moving, and then discounts, and overall impact on financials. So what we did is, whenever there is a new launch, this has to be mapped with a similar product in the past. Now with that, we used to take the past data to predict, and it actually did wonders. We could actually reduce our inventory by 10 days with this. So that's...
Yeah, thanks, Neetu. I think maybe we'll continue with the next question. So now, possibly we will try and give the crisp answer because we have now limited time. We will try and give as much insights it's possible. So, Neetu, do you feel there is an opportunity cost of not leveraging data and analytics in your organization?
Definitely. Not only in our organization, I think everywhere. Now, in the same example, if we would not have done what we did, mapping this with the other SKUs, we would have, continued with this high inventory and high cost. Now, one more thing, I can give you one more example whereby fulfillment in our stores. So basically, we have our own 500 stores through which we sell. Now, in the past, the marketing guys used to decide that what to sell and what to send to these outlets. But recently, we did an auto algorithm whereby, depending on the area, what are the products which are fast moving, we only replenish that. And with that, what is happening is revenue is also going up, and customer is also happy. So I think that's what I would say the power of data is. Great.
Thanks, Neetu. Maybe we'll go to Yashpal and then Tanushri. Opportunity cost of not leveraging data.
So yeah, so opportunity cost is there in all the aspects, whether it's a top line, okay, what market you want to really cater to, how do you want to really cater to that market. Obviously the cost side of it, working capital we have all discussed so much, like inventory, which is a problem, and supply chain cost. Maybe give you one example from my consumer days, where I used to work with the largest beverages company in a market of 2. There were challenges around the go-to-market cost, whether it is the extensive discounting in the market, the pricing, how do you play that, as well as the logistic cost that truck goes to the market, comes back with 30% of the product. So at that point of time, basically what we did, we went and geo-coded all the shops, and based on the order, we created the dynamic routing on the Google map, and then it improved the efficiency. And so there is basically opportunity in all the aspects of the business, whether it is top line pricing, how your costs work, how your working capital you can leverage more. Maybe in the treasury also, okay, nowadays, the kind of volatile world we are in, so that there is an immense opportunity, and how do we want to, really prioritize and make it more efficient for the people, that's where, the opportunity will really reside.
So, we've all spoken about the impact on financial performance and customer experience of data. I think one of the biggest opportunity costs of not leveraging data properly in manufacturing is potentially on EHS and ESG. If we use our data to have predictive and preventive maintenance on our shop floors done correctly, we can actually avoid shutdowns, accidents, breakdowns, and thereby, of course, save a lot of the P&L and the balance sheet impacts, but also ensure that lives and damages are controlled.
Oh, thank you very much. So now we will move to Siddharth, the next question, and in the current scenario wherein CFOs, the way Mr. Jain said that the CFOs act as a co-pilot to CEO. So how can CFO collaborate with different functions, different CXOs, and effectively integrate data-driven insights and overall business strategies?
Thanks, Kishore. For this also, I was picking up the clues from what Neeraj sir was speaking a while earlier, that CFOs and the entire finance function is in such a unique position that only after the CEO, that's the only function having a 360-degree view of the organization. 360-degree not only view of the organization, practically having a significant influence over the entire functioning of the organization. And that's an unbiased view of the organization, and which can be leveraged and is being leveraged by a lot of forward-looking CFOs and the finance fraternity to influence and support the CXOs or the CEOs directly. For example, giving them the right insight into, for example, FMCG, FMEG kind of environment I come from in terms of sales promotion spends, factory efficiency, yield, competition, benchmarking things with the third-party vendors or competition, and collaborating with different stakeholder functions internally, more importantly internally, for example, supply chain, manufacturing, quality, R&D design for that matter, and arriving at common solutions, showing them what can be the benefit for them and for the organization as a whole, driving that for on behalf of the CEO, creating value for the organization, creating better turnaround times for the customer, is something which can be achieved as easily as possible. I will give you an example in our context. We are largely a distribution-based business wherein the secondary and tertiary sales requires a lot of schemes settlement, etc., both in cash and in kind. So what was happening was, because of the way we were operating, there was little control over the secondary sales, the distributor to the retailer sales part of it, and hence the schemes, the promotions that we wanted to drive, the offtake we wanted to drive, was the real benefits was not getting passed on to the retailers in the absence of data. So that's where the field visits along with the sales team for the regional finance teams, for the commercial controllers with the sales team helped us understand the real pain of the retailers, wherein the real benefit, while the company was spending a huge amount of money, the benefits were not going there. And the benefits are not going there, the customer is not happy, and which makes a dent on my share on the shelf, my share on the offtake. And we created, along with the sales team, what we call as tally patches, implementing those tally patches with individual distributors, linking it with our ERPs, and eventually going on to create a complete parallel secondary sales tracking system, linking it along with the what we call as a field assist. Now all these things would not have been possible without the finance partnering with the sales team, understanding their pain and helping them understand how it can benefit them. The benefit that the sales team clearly saw was a happier retailer, their sales target being achieved much easier, they getting better access to the front sales force, foot on street path, and that's where the finance team added value directly to the CEO. Something the CEO would have been chasing with the pushing sales team to execute. That's where the finance team got involved and created direct value.
Thanks, Siddharth. Nicely said that CFO has unbiased opinion and they have the holistic view as well. So we will move to Deepal. As a CFO, how do you collaborate to get the business strategy or overall results?
So I'll again, circle back to my previous statement that the borders, between the C-suite are really thinning. And it's not CFO, like Mr. Jain had wonderfully explained, that, it's no more a back office function. It's actually shouldering the responsibility of growing the organization and taking it to the next level. So it's a shoulder to shoulder responsibility with the CEO or with CHRO or with CTO or whatever that is. So I think with the blurring responsibilities, I think partnering with business more particularly and with other function becomes extremely critical. And what I think CFOs, the way I'll explain to you how we have done it. Typically in an organization, we have something which is called FP&A, which is, finance planning and analysis, which is typically the analytical department. We actually spin that off into what is known as a BP&A. It's a business. So basically, we do not want to restrict ourselves to numbers coming out only out of the books, right? Our BP&A should be able to, should strive to get information across all functions, should be able to analyze and throw up results. That is partnering. Capability to deliver analysis not only from finance, but across the spectrum of functions, across industries, across competition, an ability to throw up ideas and insights to business for them to grow, understand, compete, and win. I think that's very important from a partnering perspective, and that's what we strive to do, as a function. I'll keep it crisp in the.
Thanks,
Yeah, thanks.
Deepal. Maybe we'll move to Piyush now.
So I think we have all spoken about the benefits. I think when it comes to partnering, right, Mr. Jain was saying that, there are times in the organization that who should pick up this battle, right? And I feel if you look at this whole implementation and making the best use of it, business is the end user beneficiary. Technology is someone who will drive it. And finance is someone where there is benefit from an audit perspective, from analytics perspective, from, certain things like data science and all. The question is that, think of it in a boardroom where the C-suite is sitting and CEO asks that, who will lead this implementation? And everyone will start checking their mails and all, right? No one will raise the hand. I think in my mind, right, it's the CFO who should raise the hand. Because ultimately a business growth can multiply, the opportunities can multiply if we are able to have the right implementation and have a right culture of using the data for decision making. So it's a brilliant opportunity that, CFOs raise the hand, leads the charter and make sure that business, technology and all are part of this journey to make a massive cultural change in the organization.
Thanks, Piyush. So the last insight we will get from Yashpal, and then we will open up for questions and answers.
So, in my view, while the lines are blurring, but there is one big difference in my view. What CFO plays from the other CXOs is a bridge between the board or management and the business. And when it comes to the resource allocation, that's where where CFO needs to play the role, and based on the data, okay, he need to maybe make the near-term and the long-term plan and how the resources can be allocated. That is where I believe the biggest role lies for CFO, who is not selling in the market or not manufacturing on the, but obviously working for the near and long-term growth plans for the business. So I believe that is.
Thanks, Yashpal. I think nicely said. It's a bridge between board and others, and Piyush elaborated that he's again Chief Flexible Officer. So I think thanks panelists for their insights. Now we will open up for question and answers. So you can ask question. You can, if you need answer from a specific panelist, you may request them. Otherwise, then we will open up to whomsoever they would like to answer.
Thanks for the wonderful insights. I think most of you talked about OCM, which is the organizational change management. So in that backdrop, I had a question. Whether if it's a company which is a ownership managed company or a professionally managed company, does it make much of a difference even if the organization is, say, not a new, like for example, VIP and what you said is 50 years. So have you need to really seen that if you have a professional management and not really the owner management, then does it really help the cause or it does not really matter?
I think it does not really matter. It is about the mindset of the owners or promoters or the professionals. And so I have actually worked throughout in my career in mostly promoter driven, professionally run organizations, and I've never faced this problem. And I have been so I have headed IT since 2001 in all my organizations. So I have not seen any difference of not adopting. Or so in Jyoti, in 2002 we implemented ERP. It was such a small organization, 300 crore, and we had 68 locations across the country, and we implemented ERP. And this was a promoter driven organization at that point of time. So I think it doesn't make a difference. It's all about the mindset and the way you put it up at what are the benefits of this change which you will do.
Anyone else who wants to? That is basically ideal scenario of what you narrated. Otherwise, yeah. She's very lucky, I would say.
So I'll give you two perspectives to that, right? So I agree with Neetu that what matters is really the mindset, and what matters is how you drive the change, right? You've got to have a buy-in of the key champions who will be the percolators of the change that you're trying to bring in. Whether it's an owner-owned, professionally run, or a MNC or a professionally owned company, I think the one difference that I have seen, and this is not just in my experience, but even in my discussions with a number of peers, right, is where it comes into investments into different aspects of technology and security. And there, I think the largest point is today a lot of companies still are on managed hosting or on-prem systems because it's a cheaper option than going to cloud. I think the cloud adoption can speeden up if we sort of start realizing that there's a reason that a lot of the MNCs are on cloud today, because it takes away a lot of security hassles from our own hands. So in the entire change management, I think it's how you lead and how you percolate it to the champions who will percolate it down. But the biggest difference is on investments on infrastructure and, you know, on-prem versus managed hosting versus cloud.
So Diksha is looking at me. So Diksha, can we take 3 questions? One or maybe 2 questions at the most. 2 questions.
My question is to Mr. Piyush. Regarding, we had an experience of COVID for more than 2 years plus. So as an industry in which you are in, so how was the response in, adjusting to the demand, which you must be experience a high demand, a low demand. So what was your response time and strategy to, get the opportunity and convert that into a value?
Thank you. Early 2020, we were running on a treadmill. And suddenly on 20th March 2020, the treadmill stopped actually. So great opportunity in hindsight to reflect also that what we are doing, is it right or not. Second is immediately to protect the short term, right? Then you decide what you need to do, because I think at that point of time, customer experience and conserving cash both were equally important. So once you start reflecting on that, right, and come out with options, I think, time teaches you. So then we got into a stage ki what happened in COVID is that the traffic came down. So from having the kitchens across 2-kilometer polygon, we could actually have a kitchen across a 10-kilometer, right? Because the roads were empty actually. So we could do delivery within 15 minutes. And because the kitchen staff also, few of them migrant population went back to the natives, it also helped us that consolidate the kitchen network. So rather than having 450 kitchens, we operated with 150 kitchens. And as and when the traffic restrictions came down, we saw people again trying to order and all. Right? That's where we started to sort of, expand the network. I think in those time, last point, in those time, it was also important to give a faith to customer that a food is getting cooked, which is in a scenario where you can consume, right? So in the bill, we also used to give the details of who are working and what's their temperature, right? So as to tell people that this is safe to consume. So I think these are the new things that you keep adapting as the time through the challenge.
Thanks, Piyush. last question.
Any last question? Sure. If there's any other question, otherwise I'll just pass on the mic. All right.
I'm really sorry, Siddharth, you mentioned about Center of Excellence, and there's also a term called GDC, the Global Development Centers, and there's a lot of impetus as far as India is concerned, because a lot of MNCs are coming down to India and set up shops. So I just want to understand from you, is it only the labor arbitrage which, is the key driving factor here? Sorry, is it the labor arbitrage which is the driving force, or as everybody says, we really have skilled manpower across all, whatever is the required expertise in that areas. So I just wanted to know what are your views on that?
Thanks for the question. For us, it is labor arbitrage, or because what we are doing is not doing any kind of AP outsourcing or AR outsourcing or centralization of the thing, because all those things are already in place. What we are trying to do is create a way, a standardization across the organization of the different MIS, the different decision-making matrices, and a standard way of working across the organization. So if I talk about my organization, we are 5 business units within the organization. These 5 business units have evolved over a period of time, had different leaderships, and had their own unique way of working for different leaderships. Now what we have realized, when it's an era of consolidation not only from a cost perspective, but a standardized way of working, because to give a standard, consistent experience to the customer. Customer need not be only a retail consumer. Customer is all the stakeholder within and outside the organization, and that's where the idea is coming from, to create a way of working, a framework which is consistent, standard across different business units. And of course, in the process, you create a lot of synergy. You create a lot of synergy by way of releasing the bandwidth of people who can be alternatively employed, as well as fastening the decision-making process, which directly adds to your top line and to the bottom line. Because as long as the disintegrated ways of working remains, different MIS remains, there is another stage that comes up in terms of consolidating different 5, for example, 5 different cash forecasts for 5 different business units, which runs on different parameters, different matrices. Now, if I can consolidate them, make a single report out of it, which can give a business unit wise as well as consolidated picture from a single source, it helps everyone.